Ah, such enthusiasm. Welcome back to the Movie Well Marathon. I'm Andrew.
I'm Mac.
Wow. All right. Yeah, you are.
What?
Just like I'm Mac. Yeah, we are on Aliens, continuing our Alien franchise marathon. Directed by James Cameron, came out July 18th, 1986. Yeah, sequel to Alien, all that good stuff.
hmm
Now, we ended last week with Mac not being the biggest fan of the first Alien movie, and I think there were some fair points made, but still, my goodness. So, how did we feel about the follow up?
Um, Aliens was interesting. I liked it more.
Oh,
Um,
um,
I don't know. It's like I don't know. Looking back at my notes on everything, I definitely liked it better. It's still essentially a structure for a film that I'm not crazy about, which is
really?
they
Okay.
all die except
Wow.
for the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sure.
and like I'm not like I'm trying not to hate while still like trying to explain why I'm maybe not the biggest fan, right? Like this type of film exists for a reason. People really like this type of film. They really like to see like who's gonna make it out, even though it's not a mystery at this point with the aliens films. But um like I don't know. It's like a classic structure for a horror slash survival film, right? Um I guess I just like this one was better in the sense that it felt like a little bit more put together than the
Mhm.
first one. It followed through on some of the things the first one promised with like the company and things like that. Um I'm a little on the fence about how I feel about some of the things like the android being an ally this time rather than an enemy was an interesting choice. Liked it but didn't feel like it resonated by it like in any way. It was just like now it's a friend because last time it was an enemy. Like it didn't really feel like it had anything else going on with that. Um I'm glad that there wasn't a cat this time that made everything infinitely more like
You like
like the
that Jonesy
cat
got
like
written out?
I like Jones in the sense of like I like that she has a cat and the cat shows up and there's a cat in the spaceship. That's fun. I like the cat has beef with the aliens. But watching her lug around like a metal cat carrier
Uh huh.
in that first film while running for her life, I don't know. I was sitting there the whole time, I was like, do I buy this? As someone
Would
who
you not go
loves
back
her
to save the
cat,
cat?
I don't know what I would do because I would want to be the person that goes back and save the cat. And then there's a part of me that like wants to scold that person. Like,
Hmm.
what are you doing? It's a cat. Get
Yeah,
out.
part of me it really depends on if the cat was like a nice cat or not. Um, but okay. So I'm gonna hop in for a minute then. Uh,
Absolutely. You probably have more organized thoughts on this thing.
Potentially. And again, was this the first time you saw this movie?
It's the first time I've seen most of these.
Right. Okay. Just have
I
to.
accidentally saw the
Wouldn't
two
remind me.
prequels,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I really like this movie. I kind of thought you were gonna approach this the same way I did Terminator, because I think Terminator 2 is better than Terminator 1. And I think Aliens is better than Alien. I think this
Well, it's interesting
movie,
that you make that comparison just because this was directed and written by James
right?
Cameron, which is the
Uh
person
huh.
who also
Yeah.
did the Terminators.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hmm. I think this is an example of, like we say, a sequel where you took everything from the first one and you dialed it up to 11 for the next one. Like, we have more aliens, we have more environments, we have a competent crew. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a
Mhm.
second. We get the queen in the end, which is amazing. I think, like, there's a lot of cool stuff. Um so just right off the bat, I think the opening is really awesome. Starting out with the ship, the pod, and bringing her back to, well, not back to life, but waking her up, and then the dream
Right.
sequence. I think it's one of the more believable dream sequences of any movie because it gives us some exposition in a believable way, and the situation is real. But
Mhm.
like, I think you buy it at first. I mean, you probably didn't because you're you. But like the idea that she might actually have a xenomorph in her and it's like coming out, like there's no reason to think that she's dreaming right now. But when she
I did
wakes
kind of
up,
buy it. My main question was like, if she does have one in her, that's going to be the biggest plot hole of all plot holes. But all right, let's keep going. Let's see where
like
this is
yeah,
going.
how would
And
that
it ended up
happen?
being a dream, and I
Right.
went, okay, all right.
Yes. So I think it's cool. The opening is really cool. I think laying out the situation is cool. I think her chewing out the business people is great. Like I think Ripley
Hmm.
gets more. They established pretty early on that Ripley is the main character. In the last
Yeah.
one, we kind of disagreed on. I don't think they make it clear who's going to be the main character in the first Alien movie. It quickly halfway or more becomes clear it's going to be Ripley, but at first you don't know. It's like a crew, and then they
The
start
start,
dropping
you
like
don't
flies.
know. Yeah.
This one is like, yeah, it's Ripley. It's Ripley. This is Ripley's movie. Strap in, it's Ripley, and I'm all for
Hmm.
that. Um, I am mixed on our group of Space Marines because
Hmm.
they do the job and they're fun, and I
Hmm.
think you get more interactions with them so that you were supposed to care more about them when they bite it
Hmm.
than you do the crew of the Nostromo, because we see the Nostromo
Hmm.
crew acting very naturally in multiple interactions. They feel like a real group of truckers that spend time together doing their thing, but they're also kind of boring. This group of
Hmm.
Marines, there's more camaraderie, but they're also fucking obnoxious, and I just don't
Hmm.
like most of them, especially Hudson. I don't care if that's the point. I find him obnoxious. He's absolutely obnoxious. I don't care when he bites it. The one cool thing he does, I like when he saves a newt. Like when he needs to be all business, he is. They all are, and
Hmm.
that's like to their credit. When they need to be on the job, they're on the job, and it feels very real, and that's great. They are competent characters, all of them, but they're fucking obnoxious. And I don't know
Well,
if
actually, yeah, like kind of a note on that. Like they're very soldiery. Like
yeah.
they feel like that's what it's like talking to soldiers, especially when they're in their environment. And I hear what you're saying about it, like being annoying and not enjoying that, and I think that's fine. But I think the reason they did it that way and maybe pushed it a little bit is so that you understood these are again essentially blue collar workers in
Mm,
space.
mm-hmm.
Like they're trying to emphasize, like the first one did, that these are not. I mean, they're competent people. They know the skills that they need to survive in their regular space situations, but they're not super smart, intelligent, or slick people. Like sci-fi often has a tendency to highlight those
Overdo
characters.
the
This is not a
scientists,
sci-fi
maybe.
series. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like
I can
even though
respect
people
that.
like you like, even people in like say Independence Day, there's a
Yeah.
high level of competency in all the characters that you encounter. They're quirky and weird and different, but they're intelligent one way or another. Um, this one is very like this series is very focused on like these are people, these are just people. It's like just because they're in space does not mean they know anything more about the world than you do. They
Mm-hmm.
just have a very particular skill set. And I thought that the emphasis on them being soldiery and kind of annoying worked to prove that point for these guys. Because again, they could have very easily gone the route of perfectly neat and organized Marine soldiers
Mm-hmm.
who are very disciplined, but that's not the reality of the
I
thing. And so they
know,
decided to
and
go with
I
that.
had to keep her. Well, see, I wanted to remind myself of that, but also I don't know any real things about the Marines. I'm I'm a house pet. I'm an artist. I live at home. I've never done anything like that. I've known a couple of guys that actually went into the Marines, and yes, they were dicks, but they don't speak for the whole thing. The only thing I know about the Marines is the
Mhm.
stuff I've seen in the movies, and I don't know how much of that to truly believe. So I like Hicks a lot. I like his For one, I like how he's like basically a superhero. I like how he falls asleep during the drop because this is nothing to him. I think that's so funny.
Mhm.
I like that he's Kyle Reese. That was fun. Kyle
Mhm.
Reese is back, kicking
Mhm.
ass.
Agreed.
I love Apone. The fact that he wakes up out of cryo and immediately puts a cigar in his mouth because he was holding it when he went to sleep. I don't smoke. I'll never smoke. I don't necessarily think that smoking makes a character cool. That character's cool. Waking up out of a cryo chamber and immediately putting a cigar in his mouth, that's cool.
Yeah,
Vasquez, I'm
I like
50-50
that.
on because she's like an ass kicker, but she's almost on par with how annoying
Mhm.
Hudson, whatever. And then like I can't tell, is that guy that dies? Is that her partner? Because they kind of talk about it. I tried to put subtitles on, but Peacock wasn't working, so I didn't really catch
Yeah,
it. They're like they either know each other
I
really
got
really
the sense.
well, or they are
Mhm.
partners. But I wasn't sure.
I'm not entirely sure it's meant to be like defined specifically
Hmm.
in the film. I get the sense that you're meant to interpret their yeah. The main thing is that Marines I think you're supposed to interpret them as either partners like in a romantic relationship or they're just like they're war buddies, which could be a thing,
Hmm.
right? They've been through so much together that
Right.
they just like rely really heavily on each other. Um, or potentially both. Like there's,
Hmm. Yeah,
situations
could be
where
both.
that blends.
Absolutely.
So
I like that she's one of the ones that does stick around till the end, but it's just in the beginning. She and Hudson. So like, and I know this is another thing that people do, and it's very accurate to like the times when the movie is made. But I hate when there's like the one word that someone is strapped to. The the what are we doing, man? Like, oh, we're all gonna die,
um,
man. Like, what is go? It's crazy, man. Like, I hate how the modern day version of that is, bro. I find that insufferable. So it's just same here. So I don't love that, but I like Ripley's inclusion. I actually like Bishop a lot. I just I get I'm always a big fan of
yeah.
robots. I think he's cool. I think he does cool stuff. And the only thing is, there's like two moments where the first time I watched this movie, I was like, I don't know what your allegiance is. Um, and it's because I misinterpret one scene, and I think another scene is just like acting. So like when they tell him that the previous synthetic or the artificial person malfunctioned, and he says, "I'm shocked," and his face doesn't move. I was like, I don't like
It
that.
felt sarcastic.
Yeah, it felt weird.
Mhm.
And then when one of the military guys brings like a case to contain the face hugger, I didn't really catch what he was doing there. And when Bishop looks at him suspicious and like doesn't respond at first, I was like, okay, what nastiness are you planning? But upon paying attention this watch, it's because he doesn't like that they're planning to take them away from the planet. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, you cool. I dig you.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess I feel fine towards Bishop. I kind of like that they loosely introduced Asimov rules
Mm-hmm.
to the
Yeah.
androids. This whole
The
like
laws of
can't do any harm towards a
robotics.
human. Yes, exactly. Um, I guess I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop with him, and it never
Right.
did.
Yeah.
So I kind of like I think I respect it, but I also feel like maybe it was a little bit forgotten about that he was an android. Like, and it kind of comes in clutch at the very end. He gets ripped apart and he's still able to like hold on to Newt and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's not totally forgotten about. It's just like we could have had him do a little bit more things that were android specific
Sure.
to carry the plot a little bit or do certain things just because like to introduce him and be like this is an android and he's a total red herring and we're doing nothing with that feels basic, I guess. Especially once Carter reveals himself to be essentially what Ash was in the first film. So
Carter.
is that not his name?
Named
The company
Burke.
representative.
Burke.
Yeah, but his first name
Is
is
it Carter? Oh, see, I only
Carter.
remembered his last
Yes.
name. The guy.
Yeah,
What
it's
do you
Carter
mean? You
Burke.
mean the guy?
Um,
Like, yeah, that guy, the guy that we're both referencing? Yeah, him.
he's revealed to be Carter Book is revealed to be the same thing as Ash was in the first film. And I guess I just thought like, is that it? That's all it's gonna be. Although I did like the twist that Carter was the one that sent the colonists to the ship after the meeting. Like
Yes.
that was a good small twist to throw in there, just
Hmm.
like emphasize how much the company is just corrupt and
Well,
broken.
yeah, I think that that helped some things and also confuses others. Um, because when Ripley is talking to everyone and they're just like not believing her, I'm like, you motherfuckers, you know, you're just being
Hmm.
assholes and you're putting her through
Hmm.
this for no reason. You know everything she's saying is true. I don't know why you're lying. She's the only one here. Then you find out, well, Burke is the one that sent them out to find it, and everything went crazy. But they don't really make the timeline clear in this movie. And so that is one
Hmm.
critique I do have because again, the travel time between the station and the planet is long enough that they go into cryo. It's long
Right.
enough that they went to the crashed space jockey ship and they were studying the face huggers. But like Burke can't be the only guy that knows about this, right? Like, there's got to be other
Hmm.
people who are in charge of this colony. And so he can't get away with it. He's acting as if he's going to be the only one that knows this stuff when they get back. But it's like, it's got to be more clear. There's got to be more evidence that he fucked up terribly before they even got there, before he could threaten the lives of Ripley and the crew. Like, right? Like, the company has to have more information. Like, they didn't have it. Then he sent those people out. Now they do. He's not going to walk away from this rich any way you slice it, right? Like, or am I missing a part of it?
I You might be overthinking it.
Maybe.
The company knows about the aliens, the exoskeleton, the xenomorphs, because they like from the first film we know it was an intentional setup to try
Right,
and
that too.
acquire
Mm-hmm.
some of them, right? So we know in the meeting where Ripley is trying to convince them that like not only did she encounter something out there that killed her entire crew and was necessary to destroy the ship, she also was worried about the colony. And they keep dismissing her. We never really get a clear point of view, I don't think, on whether or not the people in the room knew they were covering up something, but like the company at large
Right.
knows about the xenomorphs. Know like the person who knows about them would receive a police report and look through all the information and consider it valid information, but the company would never, of course, admit to any of that because
Mm-hmm.
that means they sent their crew in to die. And now because they've discredited her, they're able to hold her financially responsible for all the stuff she blew up, and they put her essentially in a mental hospital, or at least like crazy watch, where they're like, we're gonna keep checking on you because we don't think your mental state's very good. And it's convince people that you're not crazy once they've decided you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically not full on in prison, but kind of imprison her by trapping her financially and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And she ends up in a situation where they want to go to the colony because they know she has experience with the xenomorphs. And since they lost contact with the colony, they need to go to the colony. Now, the way they frame it is we need to check up on the colony and make sure they're okay
Right.
and solve their problem for them. But the company's motivations, I mean, I'm sure they don't really want to lose that colony. So it's not like that first one is false. It's just not the primary reason. The primary reason they're sending Carter is because Carter is their agent to bring back a physical sample.
Mm.
Again, they're trying to get their hands on it. So they might have some of the reports and research from when they were studying the face huggers because they're all locked up in the lab there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not all of the research. Maybe they had some research and then they started losing communication while they were fighting off the aliens. Um, but they still wouldn't have had all the information or resources that they wanted. Like
Sure.
Carter's mission is to bring back a physical sample, just like in the first one, their mission was to bring back a physical sample. So I think it all lines up. Like I don't think there's
That's
any
fair.
discrepancies there.
The only discrepancy I still see is they sent people to that planet to geoform it, terraform it,
Mm.
and they did not immediately go to the space jockey. Like,
Maybe they considered it a total failure because of the disappearance of the ship
But like
that Ripley's on.
I mean, maybe, but I feel like that would just in 60 years, I feel like they would have sent something else back to find it, like to explore that. Because like we know in the first Alien, they know there's something on it that they want. And then they send people there. There are people there. There have been people there, and no one ever sent anyone to the space jockey. That I find hard to believe because it's not even the reason that they're there, like the colony. So that's just one
Mm-hmm.
little discrepancy, but you cleared some stuff up for me, so I do appreciate that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, moving right along. I think this movie is you kind of indicated it's structured better than the first one. I think they set up some foreshadowing very subtly and very well. It's not super subtle, but I think it's subtle enough. It's natural enough with Ripley's job and her qualifications with the forklift rig, which is I think pretty cool. We
Mm-hmm.
see a little more of the cargo bay and this place for our last battle. All that's cool. Um, I'm curious as to,
They're pretty good at establishing environments in this one. I mean, they did so in the
yes,
last one too, but like they I don't know if it was like because I maybe watched like a cleaned up version or something, but it like the cinematography was much better in this film than in the first one.
I
The first one
agree.
was okay. This one was like actually like high quality like camera work and sets were nice. I even liked the design of the tank. It's like kind of a
Yeah, it's like a
just like
storm
pieced
chaser
together.
van from the
Yeah.
early, mid 2000s storm chaser show.
It's just it like the way it all works together communicates that idea of again blue collar space,
Hmm.
but makes it feel sci-fi. I feel like I can see what's going on. Things seem to have a little bit more of a purpose than they did in the last
Yeah, a
film.
little
Like
bit. Yeah. There is
it's yeah.
definitely a better idea of the layout. Because as we kind of said last
Hmm.
week, I don't know where we are most of the time in the Nostromo. As beautiful as the set design is, and as immersive as it feels, I don't know if we're on deck 4 versus deck 5. I don't know if there even is a deck 5, but like the truck feels lived in. The colony
Hmm.
is expansive, but we always kind of know where we are. I think that helps that we have windows for one. With the Nostromo,
Hmm.
it's that kind of ship where there's not a whole lot of visibility. So it was kind of cool that we had a little more of that this time around. I really like Newt. I like Newt's inclusion. I think she's
Hmm.
fun. There's a couple of deleted scenes from this. I don't know what version you watched. I'm assuming it's the one that doesn't have the deleted scenes included. And I don't really know why they cut them. I think they serve the film very well.
What are the deleted scenes?
So, one of them is we actually see the people go to the space jockey after Burke sends them a hey, go look. Or actually, the deleted scene might be someone coming across it by accident. So that might be why they cut it. They changed the story. But one deleted scene is Ripley reading about her daughter who has died because it's been 60 years. That's right. Ellen Ripley has a daughter. It's what the game, the Alien Isolation, is all about, which is a really cool game. It's a great horror game. It's really, really fun. So that is one reason why she is so determined to save Newt. I think if you don't know that going in,
I
it's a
watched this version.
okay. So yeah, it's a little. If you don't watch that version, because I've seen both, Ripley's dedication to saving Newt is a little bit much sometimes. Like it goes beyond I'm saving a kid. It
Hmm.
clearly is more than that, and like I love that. I
Like she
love
has a personal stake in it,
yes,
which is
very
different than
very
I need
much
to save
so.
a kid.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes beyond that whole I need to save people from this thing. It's very much an instinctual parental thing. I wish they would have included that she read about her kid that has died because it's been 60 years. And then yeah, the other scene that's cut is them setting up the turrets. I think that's one of the most like tension building moments is as the bullets go out on the turrets. That's
Oh
so much
yeah.
fun. That's so cool. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, the version on Peacock right now it doesn't include that. I
Oh,
love that scene. That's so much fun, and I wish they would just.
that's a good scene.
It very much so
I felt
is.
like it accurately conveyed what warfare with computers and drones feels like, where it's
Mhm.
like technically you're just looking at a computer screen, but you're also watching
Right.
to see how quickly you're going to die.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the number going down so quickly because it's a machine gun, but
I
like it's literally
know.
counting every bullet, like
Uh-huh.
very tense,
Very fun.
very tense.
Very fun. I don't know why they cut it. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's all good and fine. Gosh, okay. So how do you feel about the design of the xenomorphs, or are you still so you that you didn't notice a change in the design of the xenomorphs?
Um, I mean, obviously they introduced a couple, like there was the queen,
Yes,
right? That's
yes.
clearly different.
Yeah.
Um, did they simplify the design?
It's the
I
opposite.
just they made it more intricate.
Yeah. So there's
What did
just
they do?
like the first xenomorph and a lot of the more popular versions, it's just a very smooth head. These ones, a lot of them have like the ridges and the bumps and like
Hmm.
spikes kind of along there. Yeah, you were paying attention to the narrative of the xenomorphs, weren't you?
Wow, how dare I care about the structure of the story?
Well, you were paying attention to like how the xenomorphs conveyed themselves in the scene, not how they looked. This is an inside joke. We were
Kind
just
of. I did actually like the movements better in this film.
see. There's a debate about that sometimes on the internet. I first time I watched this because I am me, I noticed it and I was very confused because they look like cyborgs this time around. I've seen a couple of because they look mechanical. If you look at them, they look like they're
Mm.
made of wires and pipes and tubing. And I've seen like two things about that. One is, and I don't know if this is confirmed, one is they visually adapt to their environment to help with camouflage.
Sure.
The other is this is actually what they look like if they exist long enough. Like they evolve into
Mm-hmm.
this more armored bug-like look. The xenomorph we have in Alien is only around for a day. These ones have been around for several months. So these are like the warrior ones that the queen is breeding, and that's what they're supposed
Well,
to
I
look
think
like.
they might be neglecting something. The way that they made a nest out of the colony, the way that the resin, I think they called it, like sort of filled the gaps and worked in its way with machinery, but didn't just like it's not like spider webs where it just sits in the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's so invasive enough to break some of the structure of the building and the walls of the hallway. So it wouldn't surprise me if they in their gestation process somehow used the materials found in the environment around them to
Interesting.
create themselves, like their physical bodies, or if it's more of a camouflage thing where like the way that they look is influenced by their environment based off just the way that the nest was created. I
Mm-hmm.
remember watching them walk into that and just kind of like I don't know. I did pay attention to the set, I guess, on that one. Yeah, here it is. I used the word morphed. The ship feels like it's been
They
morphed into another
xenomorphed.
thing. That's not even what I was thinking, but yes, that
Well, you did
definitely
you
that
did it
is the
anyway.
connection.
You did it anyway. That's cool.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they are fully biological. So
Mhm.
I don't think they integrate not in that Borg way, but it is
Not
interesting.
in a technological way, more in a there are metals in my environment, and so I become what
Ah.
I eat.
Interesting. Very
Yeah.
intriguing. How did you feel about the design of the queen?
It was cool. Very gross, actually.
Very gross. So that's so
Which
nasty.
lends itself, I think, to the film. Like it's so gross. Um, I am a little torn on the fact that she could just rip off the egg sac
I know.
and walk away.
Yeah.
Um, but I did like that she was slightly more intelligent, so I kind of feel like I'm willing to give that a pass just because of the fact that she kind of launched a counterattack and it was clearly, like, motivated, and
Mm-hmm.
that was kinda interesting, so I'm not mad about the fact that she just ripped off a part of her body and walked
Yeah.
away.
So it's so gross. Did you catch when the facehugger comes out of the egg before it jumps on Newt before Ripley stops it that they have like fingernails? on the ends of
Ew,
their
no.
legs. Oh, it's so awful. It's so awful. I hate it. It's disgusting.
Yeah, that whole scene where they're like in the lab and they fell asleep for a
Ah, yeah.
small blissful moment, and
Mm-hmm.
then like there's just one loose in the lab. It did not take me long as an audience member to go, okay, that was a setup. Someone's trying to kill them.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate that Ripley was on the same
Oh
page.
yeah.
Like it wasn't a minute
Competent
after she was like, someone tried to
characters.
kill me.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. That's awesome,
Yeah.
actually. I appreciate that.
That was some fun tension as well because that's like one of the worst nightmares, right? It's one of my worst nightmares
Mhm.
is being in a room with some sort of nasty monster and it knows where you are. You don't know where it is. It's fast. Like, oh, I hate that shit. I hate it so much. I like though how many times in that sequence they utilize the fact that they have tails. Like they keep getting them
Mhm.
stuck between things. That's just I don't know why exactly, but I really enjoy that because it's just thinking about the situation very naturally. I think
Mhm.
it's just like
It's it's very frustrating when the character is fighting something and you're like, just do this. Just do
right,
this.
yeah,
And
like
like it happens a fair amount with like tails
uh
or
huh,
when someone is just like loosely holding something and you're like, you have a free hand.
yeah, exactly.
Grab it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this feels like a good use of that situation where like it's a long-limbed creature. Like that tail is long. So if you pin it against something, it can't jump at you because
Right.
there's not a lot of like there's not a lot of ways they can push against that. Their limbs fold forward, right? So that was cool. I like
Mm-hmm.
that choice.
Cool. Cool beans.
There was a moment where there was a small like I think it was Burke who floated it, which would kind of make sense. They're like, "Do we dare kill all these xenomorphs? Who are we to decide the
uh-huh.
destruction of this species?"
Mm-hmm.
And I went, "You're in the wrong franchise."
I see. I was thinking the same thing because at first I was like, you know what? Yeah, Picard would question this quite a bit, wouldn't he? Because
Uh-huh.
they're discussing that right now, where I'm at in Star Trek Discovery with the DMA, and it's already destroyed a planet where I'm at. You know,
Mhm.
so these xenomorphs have only killed, if you tally it all up, 150 people at most.
Mhm.
So
What if they're just trying to
what if they're
communicate?
just well, I mean, what if they're just animals, you know, like can you just
Mhm.
annihilate them? And Ripley and Hicks, they're like, yeah, we can and we will. Watch us, bitch, watch us fucking do it,
Mhm.
watch us, I will do it right now, don't tempt me. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to side with the capitalist pigs here, but and I do think I think honestly if I didn't have like the grander view of the franchise, knowing like where they come from, knowing what they're used for, and knowing where this goes, I do think that is an interesting, a genuine conundrum that could have been considered. But
Mhm.
because this franchise starts out as a horror franchise, it's pretty clear if you're the one suggesting this, you're a motherfucker. Like you're a piece of shit if you're suggesting this, and like you said, like this is the wrong franchise for it. But
Mhm.
I wonder if that could have, if there's a place for that idea, that question in this world, if prompted by
Well, I
someone
think
more legitimate.
I mean, Ripley doesn't start the film by saying we should exterminate them. Ripley starts the film by saying we need to never touch that planet ever, ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's largely driven by fear, right? Because she doesn't think that it's possible to take on that many, xenomorphs.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't even suggest just like dropping a bunch of nukes on it. She just says quarantine, like let's not ever go there ever again. And it's not until they are in a dangerous situation, having witnessed the destruction of the xenomorphs, where they're like, we are going to destroy every living xenomorph in the vicinity. And again, even that's not necessarily the motivation. Motivation is largely we need to escape, and to do so, we need to kill a mass number of these things so that we can get out of here.
Right, right.
So, even the idea that Burke floats, where he's like, how dare we pass this judgment on them? You're in a survival situation, man.
Yeah,
Like, it's
seriously.
not about this.
Yeah,
It's you
also,
or them.
yeah, like
Like,
there's don't pretend that you care about animals or
hmm
life. Like, dude,
hmm
you're not fooling
hmm
anyone. So,
yeah.
yeah, that is
So
funny.
it's an interesting question to float, but like the entire reason he does it is just to like try and prevent total destruction of the company's investment. So
Hmm.
a wonderful misuse of sympathy.
Yeah.
Uh,
I like that he gets
I know you
his.
mentioned,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I know that you mentioned that you were annoyed by Hudson's like fixation on the word man, but like there were a
Game
couple
over,
times
man.
where,
Game over.
yeah, is that the original game over, man?
Like from what? What do you mean?
They just people say that all the time. They're like,
Game
it's
over,
game over,
man.
man.
I'm
Yeah.
90% sure. Yes, it comes from this movie. Game over,
Well,
man.
is this also the origin of the knife game then with the
I
hand and the
I don't
knife?
know that for sure. I remember people would do that in high school, and then I saw it in this movie, and I was like, "Oh, this must be where that comes from." For all I know, it's from an older movie. It could be a legit Marine thing. I have no idea.
True.
Um,
Mhm.
this is the oldest example of it I can think of.
Mhm. Same. It's interesting because I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that surprising that some very iconic things would come out of
Yeah.
this film.
Hmm.
But those were not the things I expected.
Yeah. Fun, fun stuff in the end.
Yeah. For a moment, I thought the film was really going to drag because they established that they could survive for what, like 12 days or 17 days, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, first off, you're not surviving 17 days dealing with the xenomorphs. Like, that's not going to happen.
They said they couldn't survive. That's how long they had to survive before the
Right.
head HQ would have been like, "Huh, I think something's wrong."
Right. My exact note is 17 days is a death sentence for characters and plot pacing. There's no way they stay that long.
Damn, we thought we were a real critic for a second and thought this was going to be in the New York Times. Look at
And
you
then,
go.
like, maybe 15 minutes later, the reactor starts melting down, and I went, 4 hours reactor blast.
Yeah.
That's a much more
There we
reasonable
go.
plot pace.
There we
Okay.
go. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then I also really like that it requires travel across the colony, so it
Mm.
forces them to move out of their little hidey hole. And I like that it forces a reliance on the android. Like,
Yes.
again,
Yes.
Ripley does not feel comfortable with that, but he's literally the only one that can do it, so you have to trust him.
Hmm.
Again, still kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop with him, and it never really does, but I like that it forces Ripley to trust him. That forces some character growth, forces some tension. I like it.
Speaking of
Yeah.
that, I like that Ripley really takes on a leadership role in this and starts giving Hudson orders, and he doesn't like challenge it. He does when he's in
Mhm.
panic mode, but he's challenging everyone. I like that moment where she calms him down and gives him something to do, and he just starts doing it. I like that they actually
Mhm.
start listening to her. Um, they're
I
they're
like that there's not a beef moment between her and like
yes,
the technical leaders of the mission, right? They're always
yes,
like taking her advice, and at a certain level, it like I mean they you lose the actual commanders pretty quickly
yeah.
once they go into the nest. So the one guy starts panicking, she has to calm him down, but like after that point, they all just defer to her because she
Hmm.
has the most experience in the
Yeah,
situation, and I appreciate
me
that.
too. What's his name? Like Gordon, Jordan,
Mhm.
something.
Gordon.
Gordon,
Gorman.
Gorman. I
Gorman.
like Gorman is the guy who's first mission like off the desk, fine, and he's like in charge or whatever, and he's challenging Ripley. But then when they all turn on Burke, which I love that they all turn on Burke, and
Mhm.
she's like, Gorman, watch Burke. He's like, you got it. I'm on it. Don't even worry about it. Yes, ma'am. Any other commands? Because I'll fucking do it. Because we're all sick of this
Mhm.
asshole. And yeah, I like that he gets his comeuppance, but I kind of wish it would have one of the humans that took him out, just because that would have felt a little more satisfying.
Oh, I think it's kind of pleasant that he's taken out by the thing that he thought he could
I mean,
control.
it is more poetic. I wanted to see
Mhm.
someone like someone should have smacked him or broken his leg or cut off his ear.
Mhm.
Something intense and space marine-y. Just something.
Mhm.
Like everyone else gets splattered with acid or attacked by a face hugger or have been living on this planet by themselves in an air vent for who knows how long. And Burke's just there and then dies. But like lots of people die.
He's there
he needed
in
something
like
else.
a vest, flannel shirt, and jeans.
Yeah,
he looks
like
so casual.
Seriously, yeah. I wish. I don't know. I can think of other like the Benny comeuppance in the Mummies. That felt pretty good. That was good stuff.
Well, and it plays in well with his character too, with the whole
Yes.
like old thing and everything. And this one kind of does too, but I think you're right about the sense it feels underemphasized.
Just a little,
Mhm.
just a tad, but not the biggest deal in the world. It's still good that he gets eaten. I think what could have helped that is if they didn't kill him, and when Ripley is going to save Newt, Burke is there just in time to watch him like have the chest burster come out or to see the face hugger jump on him. Like I don't have to do shit for you, man. I don't have to do shit for you.
Like a small moment where you feel like the plot's gonna force her to choose between Burke and Newt, and then like she immediately chooses Newt, and everyone's like, "Yeah, of course."
Or like she gets there and because of who she is gonna save him, but she sees the dead face hugger and knows it's too late. It's like, well, I'm doing you a favor. Fire! And just like, oh. See, I think that would be very satisfying in the end. Cruel and a little sadistic, but I don't like capitalism.
Well, kind of in the vein of just like badassery, duct taping two guns together and swinging them over your shoulders.
Hardcore, man. Hardcore.
She was like panicking, duct tape, two large guns, shove them together, duct tape them around, sling it over my shoulder. I'm gonna go rescue this kid.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So good. Now, the rescue sequence is one of the most fun. Her just being on her own and exploring and finding Newt and getting out, and then Bishop coming back at the last minute. All that was really awesome. The only part that I think is kind of weird about that is the forklift fight starts off amazing. Then gets like really, really slow. Then it gets amazing again. And then it's just the ending of the first one. Again, dialed up to 11, but it's the same thing. So I'm 50-50 on that. And it was really funny to think about how this is like the farthest end of the mech versus lizard monster spectrum. Yeah. And then like a couple of notches up, you get Avatar, which again, James Cameron, because you got a slightly bigger mech fighting a slightly bigger monster,
alien.
And then you turn it up a little bit more and you get, I don't know, some sort of cool Japanese thing. You turn it up a little bit more and you get Pacific Rim. Like, it was just funny to think of it. It's like the baby of mech versus giant lizard. And it's just a forklift. Like, I mean, that whole moment is cool.
The scene definitely, yeah, no, it's one of those moments where it's like, it looks like it's about to be amazing. And then the practicality of it hits you in the face.
A little bit.
It's like, even if it were real, like even if it's a real mech suit and you're fighting a real alien, for one, the mech suit probably doesn't really stand a chance based off how open it is and how quick the alien is going to be able to move biologically. A mech suit designed for lifting cargo is not going to be something you can really throw a punch in.
Right.
So, like, it looks like it's going to be real cool for a moment, and then reality sets in, and you're like, it's increased her durability somewhat and her strength somewhat, but it hasn't actually really leveled the playing field by any means, and so it ends up feeling a little lackluster.
I kind of wish you just would have used it to squish it. You know, like with the forklift claw, just cut the head off or something. But, you know, whatever in the end. The airlock, everyone gets sucked out, everyone is saved in the end. Cool beans, whatever stuff. Bishop saves the day. Also, that moment with Bishop, though, where he gets torn apart, that was a kind of cool mislead for a second. It's like, oh my god, is there a chest burster in him? Like, just for a second. Like, oh no, it's the tail. That is one of the more aggressive robot not deaths that I can think of. That was
it was shocking. I didn't expect it because it just comes out of nowhere and you're like,
yeah. I almost feel like Yeah, I almost feel like I could say that the two most disturbing things from these two Alien movies fully involve the androids being ripped apart. Because that's the most uncomfortable moment in the first one, honestly, is when Ash goes through his
Mm-hmm.
crazy headless seizure, and then Bishop vomiting milk and then being torn apart with a xenomorph queen tail bursting through his chest. That's a lot, man. That's a
Yeah.
lot. It's almost nastier that it's white and not red, because like I'm
Yeah.
desensitized with movies now. Like I've seen The Boys and Invincible, and like so people bursting like red water balloons isn't anything, but it's more otherworldly for it to
Mhm.
be white like that.
It
It's
it feels
weird.
more wrong. Like, even though,
Yes.
like, the idea of seeing blood, especially with an injury, the reason people feel like queasy or abnormal or feel off about it is because instinctively we know it's not supposed to be there.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
blood is
Exactly.
supposed to be on the inside. But with, like you're saying, the desensitization, like, you see blood on the outside of characters on film
Yeah.
all the time.
Right.
So it doesn't really trigger anything. Whereas if you watch something that's clearly not blood leave a
Yeah.
person's body, you go on high alert because you got no idea what's going on. Even though he's an android, it's still
It's still
subconsciously like
yeah. It's still weird because
it's
it's also
different. It raises flags.
right. Like we know he's an android, but we get that first little glimpse of that 20 minutes in, and in the rest of the movie nothing crazy happens. Like yeah,
Mhm.
we know he's an android, but robot rules slash movie rules. We spent time with this character. In our mind, he's just one of our characters. If anything, if you're slacking a little bit, he's just a person. You've forgotten how nasty
Mhm.
and weird he looks on the inside. So it is
Mhm.
shocking when and also it does come out of nowhere. If you're like you're a movie person, you know, but maybe not that Queen got in there somewhere because it's kind of weird how she gets on the ship. Even
Agreed.
at best, it's
I
still kind of
mean,
weird how she gets on the
if you're a
ship.
movie person, you know, but they don't make it make perfect sense.
Right.
So
Because
uh,
it's very cinematic and fulfilling and believable that like the place blows up. That's it. The xenomorphs are done. That's the poetic ending. We're gonna go home, and then boom, you know, because like we already had our end battle with our follow up mission. Like we've already had it. We've done it. So it is both predictable and unpredictable at the same time. I would say.
yeah, yeah. I actually, I just thought of this, but I actually think the way they did the android, like, prosthetics and stuff, it's really good. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
think about the fact that, like, he's half a body, half
Yeah.
an actor laying on the floor, acting like he's, like, moving still
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in that scene. Because it didn't even, like, occur to me that it would be, like, special effects. I mean, like the kind of special effects they'd
They
have
just
to
hired
use, right?
an android
So,
to be
they just
on
yeah,
set that
it's just an
day.
android. So, like, hey, props for that because that looked pretty convincing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I do have to say, I feel like, and again, this might just be me and the kind of movie I like versus the kind of movie this is. I did feel like it dragged a little bit.
Really? See, I
I
thought the
feel
pacing was
like
better than the last one.
it's better, but especially the third act,
Mm.
it felt slow in comparison to what they had established in some of the first two acts. The first act is mostly just getting there, so that's not too bad. It feels paced and normal. But then you almost start the second act by getting half your team killed
Yeah.
in a nest. And then you spend a lot of time running from creatures, and there's large swarms of them trying to take your base. And then you realize that you can't escape. And then you realize that the nuclear reactor is going to blow up. And then we spend like the next 40 minutes trying to get off the base with the nuclear reactor kind of going off in the distance. And they do a really good job of escaping after the whole face hugger incident.
Mm.
Like, they are booking it. They are moving. They're doing a really good job. And then, of course, because the movie can't be over yet, the kid trips and they have
Of
to go get the
course.
kid,
Of
right?
course.
And that, like, doubles the length of the ending. Like, and
Yeah.
I really started to feel like it was dragging then. It was really cool to see Ripley take on all of
Of
that, go save
course. Of
her.
course.
It was one of the best moments for the character. So I don't necessarily think it shouldn't have been there. It just, the balance of the tension feels off. Having the Queen confrontation was cool, but really, in my opinion, I don't know. I know I said earlier that I liked that it showed that the queen was intelligent and followed them and everything, but at the same time, like, that's part of what made it drag. It would have been much more effective plot-wise to have the confrontation with the queen in the nest
Mm-hmm.
and then get out, get on the ship, and go. But
Yeah.
they really wanted to have that scene where
'Cause
they shoot one out the
right,
airlock.
yeah. The
So
third
they forced
act,
another, like,
there's
10, 15-minute fight scene,
yeah, there are three
and it
separate
yeah,
adventures in the third act because I
yeah,
feel like the third
yeah.
act begins with the xenomorphs attacking them up at the office space and they escape. Then
Mhm,
it's to save Newt. Then it's the fight sequence on the ship. Like there's three
mhm.
separate little adventures there. So I see what you mean. I do.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know, it was all good stuff, it's just it didn't feel super tightly woven together,
Hmm.
and as interesting as what was happening was, I was kinda like, "Are we done? Did we do it?"
You're like Jack
Like
Nicholson with the Lord of the Rings. There were so many endings. I don't even know how it ended.
Yeah,
I walked out
yeah.
before it ended. That's my Elijah Wood impression of Jack Nicholson. Anyway, the last couple of minutes here. Oh, quickly for me though. Tis a whale though. Tis a
Mhm.
whale. This is a classic. Tis a whale. Come on now. It's
Yeah,
it's
I'd give it a
it's
whale.
a
It's a whale.
whale. It's a whale. Now,
Mhm.
you need the full effect
Mm,
with this marathon.
mm.
You need the full effect of Alien 3. Where do you think we go from here? I'm not going to tell you. I'm curious as to what you, with a functioning brain, think the next logical step would be. Because I want all of your
Okay.
expectations to be fully ripped away from you next week. So where do you think we're going?
Okay, well, now I have two answers. The
Okay.
first one, the logical progression
Yep.
of this would be, especially since they picked up immediately after they find Ripley, like
Hmm.
maybe not immediately after these guys wake up, but pretty soon after these guys wake up, the company decides to go back to the planet. Ripley finds
Mm.
out about it, goes back and tries to stop them.
Ah.
Because all that. Or they put her in a situation, I don't know. Technically they're still on a company ship, so like they could still be um it would be something from the fallout of the colony, right? Like the company is heartless and soulless, so they still want the stuff that's on that planet. Obviously, killing just the queen of that nest is probably not going to be enough to wipe them out.
Of course.
So you basically loop the whole story. They're going back. Maybe they finally bring one somewhere. It's isolated on a ship somewhere. Ripley's there. She's the only one that survives. Or potentially we see that with Newt. Maybe we go to the next generation. It would be a surprise, but we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
My second answer, based off everything that you just said,
Yeah.
is they don't do any of that. Maybe
Yeah.
they even
It's okay.
go backward in time. I don't know.
Oh, prequel, you mean? Or do you mean like they travel through
Not
time?
fully prequel, not fully travel through time. I just mean like maybe they explore a storyline that do they retcon something? No, they just okay. All right. Well, I don't know then. I
Do
got
you
no idea.
remember the trailer for The Tooth Fairy with Dwayne Johnson? And like
Yeah.
the big line kind of for his character before he goes through, realizing that
No,
he
I
needs
don't
to be a
remember the
person.
specific
The
line.
line is lower your expectations.
Uh,
Okay, out of curiosity, last couple of minutes, because I didn't take as long because you already had a good story in mind. What is something you wouldn't expect to be in this upcoming movie? Or something you wouldn't want to be in this movie? Just out of curiosity, I won't confirm or deny anything.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't want Burke to show up.
Okay, fair.
Um, I wouldn't want Ripley to die, not at
Okay,
this point.
fair.
Um, I'd like to see Newt, but I don't think she's gonna be crucial to the success of the next story.
Okay.
I guess I wouldn't wanna see Ripley become drastically different than what she was in the first 2 films. Like, character
Hmm.
development, good, character regression, bad.
Hmm.
I don't know, it's hard to target things I don't want
Of
when I
course,
don't
no,
have a firm
totally,
grasp
totally
on what
fair.
the
I
franchise is like.
right no, I was thinking more
I
in the
guess
line
I wouldn't
of
want intelligent xenomorphs, like
okay,
sentient xenomorphs. That
okay,
would be bad. I don't want that.
okay, fair enough. I was that's more what I was thinking. So I was thinking like when I went into Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, I was not expecting aliens, time loops, and robots. It's a zombie movie. That's weird. I was just wondering like what you wouldn't want to see in this movie about.
I guess magic would be bad.
Totally fair. Totally fair. I will put that at ease. I will tell you there is no magic. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
But with all that, it's gonna be really fun next week. So
All right.
thanks for listening. Anyone who's
Okay.
listening, see you next time. Oh, what fun we're about to have.
Woo.